There's a really big shift happening right now in our online lives. We're starting to move away from those giant, noisy social media platforms and into something a whole lot more personal and focused. I mean, seriously, have you ever been scrolling through your feed, looking at posts from hundreds, maybe thousands of friends, and just felt completely disconnected? Like you're in a massive, crowded room just shouting into the void? Well, if you felt that, you are definitely not alone. And see, that feeling, it isn't just in your head. It's part of a huge documented trend. This quote here points to something really important, that the old one-size-fits-all model of social media is literally breaking apart. It's fragmenting into all these smaller, more meaningful pieces. So why is this happening? Why now? Let's dig into the reasons people are choosing to leave those massive digital town squares we've spent the last decade in. And this isn't just a slow leak. The source material calls this a decisive migration. That means people are actively, and with real intention, moving their time and their communities away from those giant generalized platforms. And here's the key. It's all about user agency. That's just a way of saying that we, the users, are the ones making this choice. This isn't a trend being pushed on us by big tech. Nope, this is a movement from the ground up, by people who are looking for something way better. Okay, so let's get into the specifics. What are the problems that are actually driving people away? What are they trying to escape from? This comparison just lays it all out perfectly. The old way, with these monolithic platforms, it was all about mass broadcasting. It was about the breadth of your connections, which, let's be honest, usually led to thousands of pretty superficial ties. The new way, these micro-networks, is the total opposite. It's all about focused conversations, creating real depth, and building what's called authenticated trust, which really just means you actually know who you're talking to. So it really boils down to these three big issues. First, there's data commodification, that creepy feeling that you aren't the customer, you're the product being sold. Second, algorithmic opacity. That mysterious black box algorithm that controls your entire feed, and you have no clue why you're seeing what you're seeing. And finally, there's just plain old cognitive overload. The burnout, the mental exhaustion of trying to keep up with a huge, noisy, and often totally irrelevant network. So if that's the problem, what's the solution that's emerging? Well, we're seeing the rise of something you can think of as a digital living room, a much cozier, more intentional place to connect. The official term for this is a micronetwork. And this definition is so important. It's specialized, which means it's built around one specific interest or group. It's sovereign, which means the community itself is in control. And the whole point is depth and relevance, not just getting as many eyeballs as possible. And the benefits here are just so clear. You get contextual relevance. The stuff you see is actually about something you care about. You get that authenticated trust we just talked about. The communication is focused. It's all signal and no noise. And maybe the biggest one of all, community control. The group gets to set the rules and define its own culture, not some corporation halfway across the world. Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But I bet you're wondering, how is this even possible for an average person? Do I need to be some kind of coding wizard to build my own network? Well, the good news is the technology is finally catching up with this demand. The source material really stresses that for this whole movement to take off, we need tools that are accessible and low friction. In other words, it has to be super easy for anyone to spin up and manage their own community space. And here's what that looks like in practice. There's this fancy term for it, network instantiation, but it's really just a simple idea. First, you find your niche, a topic or group you're passionate about. Second, you use these new tools to quickly deploy a network. And third, you manage your space. You're in charge of the rules, the members, and the whole vibe. This is all being powered by what people are starting to call Web 4.0 community infrastructure. And if you're asking, what's Web 4.0? Just think of it as the next evolution of the internet, one that's all about decentralization and putting control back in our hands. The source specifically highlights solutions like Linkspreed's Web 4.0 community platform as a prime example of the tech that lets anyone build their own dedicated social network easily. So let's zoom out for a second. What does all of this really mean for the future of how we connect with each other online? Where is this all headed? This quote just nails it. The future isn't going to be another single gigantic platform that rules them all. No, it's going to be decentralized. It'll be a huge ecosystem of countless smaller, empowered micro-communities,
each one perfectly tailored to its members.
So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The entire power dynamic is flipping. Control is shifting away from these massive, centralized platforms, and it's coming back to us, to individual users and the small groups we choose to be a part of. So that leaves us with one last question to think about. In this new world of user-controlled networks, what kind of community would you build? If you could design your own perfect online space from the ground up, with your own rules, your own people, what would it actually look like?